Blah, blah, blah. That's the content of Greta Thunberg's recent speech in Milan at the Youth for Climate conference. Blah, blah, blah. And so today on Bold and Blunt, we're going to discuss the Loony left and their all-courts press for radical environmentalism. It just never stops. It never stops. And these people are not brainiacs. It's like the left, the Democrats, the socialists, the communists, the collectivists. They're all one and the same. It's like they have to really dredge the bottom of the barrel to find the type of brain power to bring forth the type of radical environmental regulations that will lead to the enslavement of all of humanity. That's their ultimate endgame here with this radical environmentalism. But they can't take thinking people to bring forward these regulations into the public arena. They have to find the non-thinking types. So they get the Greta Thunbergs, they get the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, and they get people like this to give speeches on the public platform that include phrases like blah, blah, blah. Seriously, direct quotes, Greta Thunberg's speech. We're going to get into that. I'm Cheryl Chumley, and I'm the host of Bold and Blunt, giving you a Christian conservative perspective of news, politics, culture, and events. And I'm happy to announce that Bold and Blunt is now available at edify.com, edifi.com, which is the platform for faith-based podcasts. So please check out Bold and Blunt, as well as all the other faith-based podcasts at Edify as soon as you're able. And as always, you can get Bold and Blunt at washingtontimes.com. You can even get Bold and Blunt delivered straight to your email box by going to washingtontimes.com, finding my hyperlinked name, clicking on it, scrolling to the bottom, and signing up for my 3 times a week newsletter, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which will contain all my great commentaries for the week, along with my great Bold and Blunt podcasts, which include my great Bold and Blunt guests. Like today's guest, the president of the Heartland Institute, James Taylor. He's a great environmental watchdog because he puts truth, he injects truth into the fiction that the far left wants to push forward about environmental regulations. So he's coming up in the second half. But in the first half, let's tune into Greta Thunberg. What is she now, 16, 17, 18 years old. Anyhow, here's a girl who has the ears of the world, the ears of the leftists in the world, who like to claim that this teenage girl is some sort of environmentalist guru, that she has the magic touch for curing all that ails the world in terms of weather. Yay, Greta. Here we go.
Climate change is not only a threat, it is above all an opportunity to create a healthier, greener and cleaner planet which will benefit all of us.
I love being lectured by little kids.
Opportunity. We can achieve a win-win in both ecological conservation and high-quality development.
You know, when I was growing up, children should be seen and not heard.
And willpower.
That's what I was told.
That the world needs.
It's not quite the same as today's youth.
If we do this together, we can do this.
I don't mean to keep interrupting her, but
what do you think of?
Here we go.
I think of jobs.
Yes, jobs.
Green jobs.
Green jobs.
Green jobs.
Green jobs. Because if you repeat it, it becomes true.
We must find a smooth transition towards a low-carbon economy. There is no planet B. There is no planet blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
God. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. You know, this is how the left operates. They throw out phrases that just get the good sheep in the audience nodding. There is no planet B. What a profound statement. And you're supposed to sit there and think, wow, this girl is such a genius. I'm so glad that she is scolding me into listening to her youthful statements about environmentalism. And she must be speaking truth, because why else would the global powers let a little girl have the world stage unless she had something of importance to offer, right? I guess that's a subtle message here by having a little girl preach to the entire world about the perils of climate change, and basically the perils and risks and hazards that if we don't all as human beings subject ourselves to the regulatory controls from the United Nations, that we will be obliterating. The people of the world will die, which may be a favorable outcome for the population controllers of the world, the Bill Gates types. And it may even be good news for the coronavirus fear-filled, because the fewer people, of course, the fewer people who can spread the coronavirus. But for the rest of humanity, we need to pay attention to Greta Thunberg and her allies at the global level, because they know best how we are supposed to live our lives in harmony with the planet, so the planet won't die. Okay, let's listen to more of her speech. The blah, 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 I know, has you on pins and needles. What comes next? What comes next?
This is not about some expensive, politically correct green act of bunny hugging or blah, blah, blah.
Oh, blah, blah, blah. Bunny
Build back
hugging.
better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah. Net zero, blah, blah, blah. Climate neutral, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah. So, this is how the left hopes to bring into existence total top-down, globally monitored, globally overseen controls on the human population based on climate change fears. And then there's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's just skip and jump back to America. And you've got the socialist with the mostest in Congress, the star of the Democrat Party, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, calling out environmentalism as code red for humanity. She refers to the IPCC report, which always, the IPCC report issued by the UN scientists, the UN-backed scientists, always it's darkness and dire bleakness for humanity, unless, and here comes the dangling hope, unless humanity listens to what the UN puts forward in terms of regulatory crackdowns on climate change inducing carbon emissions. It's always do this or you will die. Whether it's the coronavirus, climate change, with the left, it's always do this or die. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in a recent interview on CBS Face the Nation, said this. Okay, here's the context. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was invited on CBS's Face the Nation on Sunday to discuss the standoff with the infrastructure bill, because the outrageous numbers that the socialists in the Democrat Party want, which is basically most of the Democrat Party, is something that Senator Joe Manchin, for instance, is not comfortable with. And so Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is asked to talk about compromises and what number she would accept that wasn't the full 3.5 trillion that she wants. And this is her response.
So here's where I think the problem is that when we talk about top line numbers, there's a lot that is hidden in that discussion. And so the reason why this conversation shouldn't be about numbers, but it should be about what substantive programs are willing to be excluded, or that's
coming from the White House.
Yeah, but the White House isn't making the demands to exclude universal child care or universal pre-K. This is coming from the more conservative wing of the Democratic Party. And those are the conversations that we need to have, because the thing is that Washington math is notoriously funny, and you can make a $3 trillion, you can make a $1 trillion bill into $2 trillion, you can make a $3 trillion bill that helps fewer people, etc. And so that's what we really need to...
All right, let's just stop it there. My point for playing that quote was to show just how meaningless the rhetoric from the left is. She's asked to talk about the compromise number she would accept in this infrastructure bill, which, as we all know at this point, it's not infrastructure. It's a social justice bill. It's climate change. It's free school. It's free daycare. It's free handouts of tax dollars. Okay, so it's a big entitlement spending. And she's asked to put a number on what would you accept as a compromise so your party could move this bill forward. And do you hear how she talks? It's a simple question. I would accept X amount. I would accept a range between X and Y amount. I would accept this. This is my red line. This is my deal breaker. Something like that. And instead, she talks about not wanting to talk about numbers because numbers are funny. And Washington is funny with numbers. And it's important not to talk about numbers because, hey, to quote Greta Thunberg, blah, blah, blah. And this is how the left operates, right? Their language is just filled with holes. And there's a reason for that, because they don't want to be nailed down on facts. The one thing Democrats can't stand are facts. They cannot push their policies once their policies are shown in the light of facts. And that's why they have to constantly harp on the emotion of things. That's why they have to say things like, there is no planet B, or numbers are funny, and we can't put numbers on these. What we need to do is work for the community and work for the people in the community, and Washington numbers are funny and often leave out the people of the community. Well, that's fine and dandy when, say, you're running for office and you're out there on the campaign trail promising this, promising that, promising all sorts of things that in the back of your mind you know you still won't deliver. That's part of the political game. But when you're in office or when you're given a world stage to scold the entire human race about climate change and the need to regulate to offset carbon emissions and save the world, you have to actually deal with facts and figures. You have to actually come from those unicorn, rainbow, candy, dreamland visions and enter the world of reality and start showing people how your policies will actually play out in the day-to-day. And that's something that the left doesn't want to do. And that's how environmentalism basically is run.
What is non-negotiable there for you?
So, you bring up an excellent point in that the fact is that we do have to compromise with...
Yes. What's non-negotiable?
With the fact that we have Senator Manchin and Sinema who refuse to support certain programs for working families.
So what's non-negotiable?
So the compromises and the options that we have before us is, do we shorten our funding programs?
So the compromise is an option that we have before us. Okay, but what's your non-negotiable? All right, let's try it again. All right, wrap up, Alexandria.
I think there are some things that are very, very important to us.
Brilliant.
For you, what is non-negotiable?
I think some of the climate provisions that we have, we cannot afford to increase carbon or just fossil fuel emissions at this time. That is simply the science. That is not something we can kick down the line.
The science.
Right now, both the IPCC report saying that this is code red for humanity, as well as recent reporting saying that if you're under 40, like myself, like millions of Americans, you will be seeing a catastrophic increase in the
You're going to run right in.
What does that even mean? Code red for humanity. There is no planet B. These people are far from scientists. As a matter of fact, the Democrat Party loves to talk a great game about science. Science this, science that. Anthony Fauci, he's got the science. Francis Collins, he's got the science. Bill Gates, he's got the science. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Greta Thunberg, they've got the science on environmentalism because they say things like, there is no planet B, and it's code red for humanity. What does that even mean? Well, it means what the left wants it to mean. And what the left wants it to mean is regulatory controls on all human activity. That's it in a nutshell. It would be a lot more honest if they could just come out and say it. But they won't, because then they will tip their hats. They will spill their beans. They will show their cards. And those few people left in the world who still really think that the Democrats are all about saving the planet and doing good for humanity through environmentalism, those few left in the world will suddenly have their eyes opened. And the Democrats won't have anyone else to lead, won't have anyone else to order around. So James Taylor is the president of the Heartland Institute, and I love to talk with him about environmental matters because he's a person who doesn't mince words. You ask James Taylor a question, he gives you an answer. There is no talking point. There is no pull at the emotional heartstrings. There is no planet B. There's none of that talk. There's just facts. There's just facts and figures and sound science and things like that. So James Taylor, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt. I really appreciate your time.
Hey, the pleasure's mine. Thank you, Cheryl.
So you guys have this conference coming up in mid-October in Vegas. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to discuss.
Sure. This is our 14th International Conference on Climate Change. And we are going to present the science, the economics, the policy insights that make the case for climate realism. And climate realism basically being that we are not facing a climate crisis. The fact that temperatures may be warming a little bit and humans may be playing a role doesn't necessitate transforming our economy, taking away our freedom, etc. And the theme of this year's conference is climate realism versus the Great Reset, climate socialism. Basically, the World Economic Forum, along with leaders of nations and corporations throughout the world, are seeking to impose what they call the Great Reset of capitalism, which is essentially socialism. They're doing it under the guise of climate alarmism. That's their Trojan horse, and we're trying to call attention to that.
Okay, and that is what grabbed my attention because the Great Reset, I think, people were reporting on it maybe, I don't know, a year ago. And then the mainstream media came in and they made the case that, oh, this is tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, and it sort of went away. But this is huge. And I would like you to explain to people why the Great Reset is oh so crucial to understand for the fate of America's liberties.
Well, yeah, thank you. And first of all, any assertion that this is a conspiracy theory or tinfoil hat or whatever, go on to the World Economic Forum's own website.
Thank you.
It is, yeah, it is the primary central focus featured item on there. This is something that in the leftist intellectual circles, they have long talked about their desire to transform capitalism, which we know is free markets, economic freedom, into what is what the World Economic Forum is talking about is the Great Reset of capitalism, and in other words, stakeholder capitalism, which means basically if you form a business, your ability to run the business is constrained by anybody who the state and the political left say your business affects. And all of those people get to dictate how you run your business, which is essentially socialism. But it's right there on their website. This is their primary focus for 2021 and beyond.
What you just described about how anybody and everybody gets to dictate how you run your business. When I covered local news in one particular county in Northern Virginia, I saw environmentalists come out to every local zoning and permitting and board of supervisor meeting to protest any type of development that a builder wanted to go forward with. And so this is what would become with the state of America's capitalistic system, yes?
Right, and we saw a preview of what would occur just in the past 18 months with all of the COVID restrictions imposed by government, with the lockdowns, government dictating which businesses can be open, how they must operate, etc. When the World Economic Forum started its Great Reset of Capitalism agenda, climate change was the primary justification for this. What happened when COVID came is they utilized COVID as another excuse, another reason to do so. It's just a preview of what they'd like to see imposed throughout the country, throughout the world, under the name of a Great Reset of Capitalism.
Okay. And just as a heads up, James, you faded out a little bit there. I don't know if you're moving around, but you finished up strong. So whatever position you're in now, just stay that way, if you would.
Sounds good.
So let me throw out a few terms at you, and you explain to me and listeners, if you can, the difference, or perhaps these are all the same. So we've got the Great Reset. We've got Build Back Better. We've got the Fourth Industrial Revolution. We've got environmental, social governance goals, ESG. And then there are some other terms we could throw in there as well. But what are the main differences here? Don't forget New World Order, One World Order.
Yeah, these are all the differences that exist are quite minor. Basically, what these ideas have in common is an elimination of individual freedom, of economic freedom, of our ability to determine for ourselves how we're going to live our lives. And it also eliminates nationalism in the sense that the United States, for example, can stand up and say no to countries like North Korea or Bangladesh or whatever cabal of nations is ruling the United Nations. And we know from our past history, long ago and most recently as well, that the United Nations is not run. The majority of nations in this world are not Western democracies. So this notion that we have to have this new world order, or whatever you want to call it, this Great Reset of Capitalism, whereby the rest of the world and the political left get to dictate how we fare as a nation and how we fare as individuals, is quite threatening.
What do you know about Klaus Schwab, who is the founder of the World Economic Forum and a big pusher of this Great Reset? What do you know about his background?
Right. Klaus Schwab has been advocating this Great Reset of Capitalism, again, just in by and large, in esoteric circles of debating among leftists until recently, where he's had the courage to bring it out front and center. But this has been his goal for many decades. Klaus Schwab, going back to at least the 1970s, is a socialist, is a European socialist who has always dreamed of uniting Europe under socialism. In decades past, when he formed the World Economic Forum, it was formed under another name initially, but switched over its name to the World Economic Forum about the 1990s, I believe. But basically, his plan initially was to bring together world leaders, political, economic, etc., to talk about how to make the world a better place, try to bring that synergy together. And then once he did so, again, imposing his socialist vision, making the meetings centering on how we can implement global socialism. And that indeed has been the case. And the fact that we're seeing this Great Reset of Capitalism now as the World Economic Forum's front and center agenda, rather than 10, 20, or 30 years ago, is precisely because global socialism has advanced to the point where he can openly be promoting this. And it's something we should be quite concerned about and should do everything possible to fight against to preserve our freedoms.
Do you think that he loves humanity so much that he is being completely altruistic with his visions here? Or do you think at root that he's evil?
Oh, my goodness. I would like to think that even the worst of people, in terms of what they do in their own minds, they think it's for the greater good. I don't know with Klaus Schwab. I've never met him. I do know that what he is proposing, whatever his motivation, his proposing would bring just widespread misery across the planet. And we need to fight it as strongly as we can if we're ever going to have a free society in the future.
Yeah, see, I think he's a smart guy, and I think he must know that. And so I think his base motivation is control. And in that respect, I would put him in the column of evil. I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but that's
I'm not going to disagree with you, Cheryl.
Yeah, maybe I can be bolder than blunter than some of my guests I have on, but that's how I see it. So, Talk about, I guess, solutions, because it's one thing to fight City Hall when it's in your own backyard, right? But we're talking about forces that are on the global level. And some of these forces are people we don't even know. They're nameless and faceless, and they're working busily behind the scenes. So how do we fight this?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is recognize what their Trojan horse is. And in this case, it is climate change. By appealing to something that people fear and also appealing to their desire to preserve the environment, if they can get people to say, oh, this is what's required to save the earth, and it's socialism, and it's a great reset, and it's their centralized control globally, that's what they will do. So what we need to do first is present the truth about global warming, the fact that we are not facing a crisis, the fact that the rationale behind all of these restrictions on our economy is not climate change, because they know it's not a threat, but instead to institute global socialism. That's what we have to do first and foremost. We have to make sure people understand that this is a Trojan horse, because I think in our hearts, Americans do not want socialism. I think that the left realizes that they can put fear into people and at the same time appeal to their altruistic view of the environment. Perhaps they can sneak it in. So we have to shed light on their motives and what the issues really are.
Now, I know this conference you have coming up October 15th through 17th in Vegas deals with climate change and the Great Reset as it deals with climate change and the environment. But the coronavirus is tied tightly to this, because these leftists, these collectivists, are using the coronavirus to jumpstart their overall endgame here. And I just wonder about your perception, your views of vaccine mandates and how vaccine mandates figure into this overall Great Reset.
Yeah, we've seen, unfortunately, a precursor to what would occur if the climate left gets their way and is able to control society under the guise of a so-called climate crisis. When the coronavirus pandemic came about, it provided a wonderful opportunity in the eyes of statists, in the eyes of people who would take away our freedoms and liberties, to have a trial run to see what they can get away with. And it ranged from everything from the economic shutdowns to, for a while, not even being allowed to go outside, being quarantined within your house. And now, moving forward, in terms of vaccine mandates, when basically if you have a vaccine and if it is as effective as they say, you're protected. So what do you care if somebody else has a vaccine or not? But it's a way of imposing control on people. It's a way of having their stamp of, yes, you will submit to the state.
So last question, James. When you look down the road to America, say, I don't know, 2 years from now, while Joe Biden is still president, 5 years from now, what do you see? What do you see in terms of America's freedoms?
Well, I'm optimistic. I always have been. I believe that although we're facing a difficult political situation now, there's only 12 more months until the next election, and I think the folks that are pushing for greater government control in our lives are going to be swept out of power. And here we have, and I don't really care about the label Republican or Democrat. I care about how you respect individual freedom in this country. And as it stands right now, for the most part, Democrats are the ones that are pushing state control over our lives. We have a Democrat in the White House who's been supporting all these leftist agendas. We have Democratic control in the House and the Senate. And still, for the most part, the only changes that have been implemented have been by executive order by Joe Biden. They haven't had the political capital to usher into place the more sweeping changes in our society. Hopefully that'll remain the case. I think 12 months from now, we're going to see, just like in 2010, just like in 2014, we're going to see a dramatic change in who's sitting at the levers of power, because the people understand now what it is that is sought to be imposed upon us by the political left.
Yeah, you know what? I got to agree with you, because when you see leftists follow someone like Democrat Kirsten Sinema into the bathroom and stand out there and not let her even go to the bathroom in peace because she is opposing the $3 trillion infrastructure bill of Biden's. You got to say, wow, people are actually waking up to some of the far leftist crazy loons that are in their party. And that's a good thing.
Absolutely. When people see Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema being cast as these right-wing extremists and blockers of progress, it doesn't really do them any political favors. And then the tactics, of course, following her into the bathroom, standing outside the stall. Again, okay, are you hoping to win over the American people by doing that? Do you think Kristen Sinema is going to start supporting you now that you do that? You're just pushing her away. As cunning as they are, I'm glad that they can also be pretty idiotic at times.
I know. Who does that, right? I don't even know what would go through someone's head. Let's follow them in the bathroom. Well, James Taylor, president of Heartland, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt, and thank you for the great work Heartland Institute always does.
Well, thank you for your great work. It's always nice talking with you, Cheryl.
All right, thanks. And that's another Bold and Blunt episode. Thank you for listening. Go to edify.com, edifi.com, and check out all the faith-based podcasts there. I'm telling you, there are so many podcasts there that are tremendous, not just Bold and Blunt, which I do want you to listen to, but check out the other ones at Edify. You won't regret it. You'll feel great that you did. And also go to WashingtonTimes.com. Subscribe to my 3 times a week newsletter there, where you will get also my twice weekly Bold and Blunt podcast. Never miss an episode. And I want to thank you for listening. Thank you very much for my supporters out there. If you are a subscriber to my Washington Times newsletters, I really want to thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a great deal. Again, thank you for listening. Tune in next time. And in the meanwhile, stay blunt, stay bold.